If you're just starting out on the piano, you might be wondering, what do I really need to focus on in order to get good and to get good fast? In this video, I am going to share with you the key skills that every beginner pianist needs. So stick with me, and before you know it, you'll be playing your favorite songs. So here is the first important skill. A good pianist needs to have good posture and a good hand position. So one of the first things we need to do is to sit on the front half of the stool. So if you divide the stool into two, try and make sure that your bottom is sitting on the front half. This is going to give you the balance that you need to play the entire instrument. Then the next thing is make sure that you're sitting nice and tall. Okay. So pretend that a string is pulling your head and you just want to sit nice and tall. Okay. So don't slouch or do things like that. So nice and tall. Okay. If you've got an adjustable stool, you also want to make sure that your elbow is in line with the keys, or maybe slightly above the keys. You probably don't want to be too low so that you're playing like this. Okay. So once you're sitting tall, you now need to make, and you're sitting in the front half of the stool, you want to make sure that the piano is the right distance away from you. So what you don't want to do, for instance, is to be far away from the piano like this. Okay. So the way to check is, if you sit nice and tall and then you extend your arms like this, you want to make sure that your knuckles touch the board. So like this is too far, because for me to play, I probably now have to lean like this. Okay. And this could end up resulting in all sorts of pain, which is really unnecessary. So sitting in that front half of the stool and sitting nice and straight, if you extend your arms and they touch the board, you're ready to play. Okay. This way, you can access the entire instrument. This hand can even play that note over there, and this can go all the way there. Right. So access to the whole instrument. Okay. So that right there is good posture, and then you want to make sure that your feet are flat on the ground. Okay. You don't want to have them inside the stool. You don't want to sit cross-legged and all that stuff. Okay. So this right here, good posture. Front half of the stool, correct distance, and you're sitting nice and tall. Now the next thing that every beginner pianist needs to have is a good hand position. So there's several theories with this. So some people will say, keep your hand nice and curved, okay, which I think is a good idea. So I've seen in some books it will say, maybe put your hand on your lap. And now that it's on your lap, if you remove it, that right there is your hand position, so nice and round. Okay. And the best way I like to think of it is, if I just drop my arm to the side, it automatically creates, so in my most natural position, it creates the piano hand position. Okay. Because if I bring this up, it's perfect. Okay. So there is my piano hand position. So there's always a natural curve of the hand when you're relaxed. So if you drop your arm to the side and bring it up, you play. Try and avoid making any adjustments. I often see my students going, as soon as they're here, fingers go flat or they curl their fingers. Okay, so just try and relax, and there's your natural hand position. Okay, this natural curve. Okay. I'll probably try and avoid maybe having the fingers too flat, and I would avoid, see, as soon as I do this, I'm already feeling all sorts of tension here, so the fingers won't move freely. So that right there, correct posture, correct hand position, that is the first skill that every beginner pianist needs to have. The second important skill is developing finger independence and finger strength. So I want you to take your 3 middle fingers and put them on a group of 3 black keys. Maybe the 3 black keys in the middle. These ones here. Okay. And then you're going to take your pinky, you put it on C, and then you can take finger 1 and put it on E. This position right here allows your hand to be in its most natural shape and position. So the first exercise is us just practicing fingers 1 and 2. So we're going to go like this: 1, 2, 1, 2. While you are doing this, make sure that fingers 3, 4, and 5 stay down. So when finger 1 plays, finger 2 goes up and then it plays. When finger 2 goes down, finger 1 goes up. So I'll show you that again. So remember, your 3 middle fingers are on 3 black keys, pinky is on C, okay, and then you play your thumb, you bring finger 2 up and play finger 2. Finger 1 is going up, and the 2 just alternate. So it's kind of like walking. You know, when you're walking, one leg goes up, the other goes down, while the other goes up. Right, so let's add maybe a bit of rhythm and timing to this exercise. So we're going to go 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Okay. Once you've got that, you could try the same thing, but this time with fingers 2 and 3. So now you've got finger 1 down, finger 4 and 5 also stay down. Okay, so you're going to go finger 2, finger 3, 2, 3, then and then we're going to do the same exercise, but this time with fingers 3 and 4. So all the other fingers that are not 3 or 4, those stay down. Okay, so I'm going to go 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4. You could even add a metronome to this if you think it will help with your timing. And then we can also do finger 4 and 5. So you can go 4, 5, 4, 5, 4. And it's interesting, for me already, I can feel that 4 and 5 are my weaker fingers. Okay, so once you've mastered this with your right hand, you also want to play that exercise with your left hand. And the beauty of the left hand is it's exactly the same thing. So you've got these 3 fingers on the 3 black keys, and then your thumb is on C and pinky is on E. Okay, so in this case we could start with 5 and 4. So you can go and then you can go 4 and 3. Oops. And then 3 and 2. And then you can do 2 and 1. What you could do is possibly take a step further than that. I actually have never tried this, but I just want to hear what this might sound like. If I do hands together, so my hands are in this position. What if I go 1 and 2? What would that sound like? Let's see. I actually like the sound of that. Okay, let's go to 2 and 3. It might be better, it might be worse. Let's see. Oops. My finger 4 misbehaved. It went up, so I'm going to start again. So. Now I'm going to go 3 and 4. Now I'm going to go 4 and 5. I like that. Okay, so that's a finger strength and independence exercise that you could do. And now let's go to maybe C. Okay, so I like this position, like I said earlier, because it sort of fits the natural position of the hand. In fact, rumor has it that Chopin used to teach all his students in this position first, before he started playing on the black keys, because now you've got the long fingers are playing the black keys, and the shorter fingers, your thumb and your pinky, are playing on the white keys. So it's way more natural than trying to play in C, where maybe you've got to now make adjustments to have, and maybe that's why some people say you need to have your hand round. Okay, maybe that's to adapt to the white keys. But you can, once you've done this position and you're used to this hand shape, when you go to C, I would suggest you just keep it the same and have your long fingers more inside the black keys. So you could be thinking like this. So what you could play here is a C 5-finger scale, which is basically you're just playing fingers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 going up, and then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 going down. Okay, so let's do that together. So 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3. And then you could double the speed. You could double the speed again. You could double the speed again here. Okay, so you could try something like that. And then you could do the same thing with your left hand as well. So what if we start, so finger 5 is on C. Remember to have the 3 middle fingers a little bit further into the black keys. So and then we can double. So that's developing some strength, and you're starting to get used to this 5-finger position, which is actually quite an important thing in piano playing, to get used to a 5-finger position. Okay, if you want to take it to the next level, you could try the same thing maybe on G, and you can play a G 5-finger scale. Okay. So finger independence and finger strength is a very important skill for every beginner pianist to master, particularly using all 5 fingers, even the weak fingers 4 and 5. Alright, now let's go to the next thing that beginner pianists need to master. Hello there, my music family and friends. I just wanted to take a quick break from the video, and I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am. Now, really quickly, did you know that about 75% of the people that watch my videos are not yet subscribed to this channel? That means there's a chance that you're probably not subscribed either. So if you're not subscribed, please do me a favor and go and click on that subscribe button. That's really going to help me to continue creating content like this and for this channel to do really well. The next thing I wanted to say was, if you are either a musician or a songwriter who's looking to grow their skills, I would like to invite you to a very special online event. This is called Play Piano Like a Pro. So this is for anyone who's never played the piano, or maybe you've played a little bit, but you really want to develop your skills. In just 90 days, I will take you through step by step from absolute beginner to really sounding like a very decent pro. Then the final online event that I would like to invite you to is, if you are a piano player who's already played and you're probably at an intermediate level, so that means you can play some chords and the inversions, you know your scales, and you can play basic songs in different keys. I've got a jazz program that I'm also running over 90 days that I would like to invite you to, where we're going to learn the basics of jazz piano, chord voicings, jazz tunes, chord progressions, how to improvise, the works. So if this sounds like something that you might be interested in, I am going to put a link in the description below, so please click that link and I will get in touch with you. Okay, so let's jump back into the video. once your fingers can play comfortably in a 5-finger position, I would suggest maybe as the next step you learn some folk tunes and some easy melodies that use a 5-finger position. A book that I particularly like, that's got all these pieces arranged in a nice order, is this one right here, which is the Suzuki, what's it called? Suzuki Piano School Volume 1. And I like it because it's easy folk songs. So in here, it starts with Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, okay, which is actually not just 5 but six notes, okay, and variations of that piece. But let me play maybe Lightly Row, because that's the second piece in the book. So Lightly Row is a piece that goes like this. And apparently Lightly Row, that's a German folk song, and I hope you could see that it's using notes in a 5-finger position. And in this piece, it allows me to play using all 5 fingers separately. And I mean, I could play a number of pieces. There's also, the next piece there is called the Honeybee. So at a later stage, I'll do a whole video on Suzuki piano because I absolutely love it. It's very good for ear training and just developing you as a whole musician, well-rounded keyboard player. Actually, that's what you'll end up as. So, what I would actually suggest, because a lot of people ask me, well, how do I play with both hands? What I would actually suggest is get very comfortable playing with just one hand, particularly your right hand. Get used to playing all these melodies. So I would actually play all the melodies in this book with just the right hand before even thinking about the left hand. And once you're very comfortable and your fingers know how to move, especially in a 5-finger position, then we can start addressing the next tip that I'm going to give beginners, which is playing with both hands. What I would suggest you do is, maybe if you go through all these pieces in this book, is to then go to Mary Had a Little Lamb, and that's I like it in that book because it's got simple chords in the left hand. Okay, so you're gonna play. So I like the simplicity of that because that's quite easy to coordinate. Okay, so if you've played through all the pieces in the book, you come back to Mary Had a Little Lamb, and this is how I would suggest you learn this slowly, or rather you break it down. So you could play the chord, in fact you could play the first note followed by the chord. So that's the first note of the melody, right? So you can play that, and then you can play a chord. As you're doing this, it's very important to listen to the balance between your hands. So you want to hear this note, and then when the chord comes, try and make sure that the chord sounds a little bit softer than the melody. That's going to be a basic rule of piano playing, that the melody is the most important thing, and then your chords will be the accompaniment. So you want the melody to be above the accompaniment at all times. Okay. Sometimes the melody is in this hand, and therefore this accompaniment has to be soft. So practicing listening from the very beginning is going to help you, particularly to the balance between the hands. So once you think you're hearing that and hearing it well, you can try and play these two things at the same time, like this. Once you can hear the melody on top with the accompaniment just below, you can now go. You could even stop there. Let's do that again. So, okay, and now we can add the next note. Okay, and if you put that together, you've now got. Don't be in a hurry to get to the end. The most important thing is to go step by step, but make sure that you're really listening to the balance between your hands. Because even when you start playing a piano concerto or a piano sonata, this is going to be a very important skill. So rather get it at the beginning, and then you'll be absolutely fine. You could even stop here and ask yourself, well, what's the next chord going to be? Okay, and it's the 5 chord, which you're going to play like that, and you're going to play it together with D. So here it is again. Okay, so once you've done that, what it means is already, because your right hand has played all these melodies, I think there's about 19 or 20 of them, okay? So you're quite comfortable and you've developed the strength and the independence of the fingers. Your ears have developed. When you then add your accompaniment, okay, listening to the balance between the hands, oh my goodness, you're so ready to tackle more advanced pieces. Okay, so I'd start with this, and then by the time you get to pieces like Lightly Row, all your left hand is doing, remember you're now used to chords from songs like Mary the Little Lamb, so now you can start playing chords in different patterns. So for instance, you could be playing, instead of C like that, you can play the notes one by one like this. This is what's known as an Alberti bass. So because you already know this melody, it's going to be easy to put these together. So you're going to go like this. Important thing is to always practice slowly. So you could even break this down and say, let me learn just the first 2 notes. Okay, so that I really get my hand coordination to be on point. So you could go. That's a tricky one because you're starting with finger 5 in both hands. But now, left hand is playing with finger 1, but right hand is playing finger 3. So you might want to do that a few times, because it might be tempting to go like that and have finger 3 and 3. So, and there, this will feel very natural. And then you can add that note. So. The beautiful thing that the pieces in this book will allow you to do is you're going to get very comfortable playing these patterns, because a lot of the pieces, so I was playing Lightly Row, if I'm playing maybe Cuckoo, let me just go to that piece. No, in fact, Cuckoo is not a good example. Let me go to French folk song. Okay, because it uses that same pattern. Okay. So you're practicing this, and it's going to set you up for, it's going to make life so much easier when you're playing more advanced music. So you could now be playing, maybe after a few years of playing, you're already used to that pattern, and independence of the hands is going to feel so natural. Okay, so that's a very important skill for beginner pianists to learn from the very beginning. Independence of the hands. But remember how it starts. Right hand by itself. Let this become very independent. And then gradually start adding some left hand in there. And before you know it, boom. Magic. Alright. The next thing that every beginner pianist needs to know are these things known as chords. Now, chords are the building blocks of music, and with chords, you can play thousands of songs. So I'm going to show you the major chords. So we'll start with C. So C looks like this. You play a white key, skip one, play the next, skip one, and then you play the next. That is the shape of a C major chord. You could also describe this as white, white, white. So it's all white keys. There are two other major chords that have exactly the same shape, and that's F. So to play F, all I did was move my thumb to F, and then I play white, white, white. So F and G. See, those three chords have got exactly the same shape. So there's C, F, and G. Okay. You could actually start playing all types of songs with just those three chords. Songs like Twist and Shout or La Bamba come to mind, you know. So I hope you can see that the three chords have exactly the same shape. So let's also maybe describe this as shape number 1. Okay, so I'm gonna show you chords that have got a different shape, which I'll call shape number 2. One good example is A. So the A chord, if I put my thumb on A, I'm gonna play white key, black key in the middle, and then white. So it's white, black, white. Also looks a bit like a triangle. Okay. The two other chords that have got exactly the same shape are D. Hope you can see the triangle, white, black, white, and E. And again, I could play my maybe Lion Sleeps Tonight. Could even add a bit of rhythm. Okay, so A, D, and E have the same shape. C, F, and G also had the same shape. And here is a third shape. This shape is mostly on black keys. So the first chord I'll show you is A flat. And to do that, I'm going to put my thumb on A flat. And then I'll play C and E flat. So this is it's kind of like a reverse triangle because I'm going black, white, black. So there's my A flat chord. The two chords that look like this are D flat, which is this, and E flat, which is this. So those three chords are black, white, black. Okay, so already just using these shapes, we've covered that's shape 1. So there's 3 chords. Another 3 chords, shape 2. So now we've got 6. Another 3 chords from shape 3. So now we've got 9 major chords. And you know what? There's only 12. So 3 chords to go, and then you've got the whole thing. Okay. Once you know this, the cool thing about major chords is the only difference between major and minor is the note that's in the middle. So this is C minor. This is C major. If I want C minor, I just have to move this middle note. I flatten that, and then I've got that. So there's C minor. I could do the same for F. So this is F major. Well, there's F minor. And I hope you can see that C minor and F minor look the same. Well, guess what? G minor also looks the same. Okay. So once you know the major chords, it's easy for you to work out the minor chords. Okay, so beginner pianists need to know their major chords, their minor chords, and they also need to know these things known as chord progressions. So a chord progression is basically when you go from one chord to the next and to the next and every song has got a chord progression. Some people call them chord changes. And there's some important ones which I think every beginner pianist needs to know. I'll give you 3 of my favorite, and I will refer to these in numbers because numbers make it possible and easy for you to take one song from one key and play it in another key. So I'll give you an example. So here's a 1-5-6-4 chord progression. When I say 1, I'm doing this in the key of C, by the way. Okay. So C in the key of C is chord 1. Okay. And G is chord 5. A minor is chord 6. And then F is chord 4. Okay. So if you can play this 1, 5, 6, 4 progression and you know it well, this is going to lead to a whole bunch of songs that you could possibly play. In my Play Piano Like a Pro program, I actually list not all, but many songs that use this chord progression. In fact, I've got a list of at least 50 songs that you'll be able to play using that chord progression. And as I'm playing it, I'm sure you're already hearing a few songs that use that chord progression. You know, whether it's from pop music, rock music, gospel music, all over the place. So that's 1. That's a 1-5-6-4. I could rearrange those chords and maybe play 6-4-1-5. So there's 6, 4, 1, and then 5. That's a 6-4-6-4-1-5 progression. So we've done 1-5-6-4, and now we've just done 6-4-1-5. Here's another common one. It's 1-6-4-5, and that looks and sounds like this. So here's 1. You can go to 6. You can go to 4, and then 5. That's a 1-6-4-5 chord progression. So all beginner pianists need to know their chords, but also chord progressions. And remember I said earlier that it's easier if you know numbers to play things in one key and then play them in another key. That's known as transposing. So I was playing 1-5-6-4 in the key of C just now. But I mean, let me go to something completely different, C sharp. So the same song that I played in C, that's 1, and now I'm on 5, now I'm going to 6, now I'm going to 4. Let's say you want to take it up a key, you could now play the same thing, 1, 5. I'm in the key of C sharp now. And you're probably wondering, well, how am I able to just go from one key to another key? That's because I know the next thing that every beginner pianist needs to know, and that is scales. Okay, so scale, there's different types of scales. We'll start with major scales. If you know major scales, the other scales are much easier to figure out. So C major scale is basically made up of white keys. Okay, so if you play that's the sound of do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Obviously, when we play scales, we don't want to play them with one finger. So there's what's known as fingering. And in fingering, it's each finger's got a number, each finger on each hand. So thumbs are number 1, there's number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. So the fingering for a C major scale is finger 1, 2, 3, and then you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. And to end it, if I want to end it there, I'll just end on my pinky. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and that sort of fingering is going to help you later to play all types of pieces. Like earlier I was playing this piece, and that's a sonata by Mozart, and it's in the key of C. In this section here, notice how he uses scales. So again, to play that effectively, I have to use correct fingering. You know, otherwise I'm gonna get stuck. If you can't really play it like that. So, but if you use the standard fingering, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So, and then you start on G, and then you start on F, and then E. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so scales are very useful because you find them in songs. Songs come from scales. If I play that same C major scale, just going down and added a bit of rhythm, you've probably heard that, and that's joy to the world. Okay, so it's important to practice your scales as a beginner, and I would recommend that you know your scales in all keys. So there's only 12 keys, so you need to know your C major, C sharp, D, E flat, E, F. So notice how I'm not guessing when it comes to scale. Like I know them. Like I know them really well. And that can only come by repetition, repetition, repetition. Okay, so just play them over and over and over until you know them well. And your right hand knows them, and therefore your left hand needs to know them too. Okay, so every beginner needs to know not just the chords, not just chord progressions, they need to know their scales. Okay, in fact, if you don't know your scales, chords and chord progressions will get more difficult. Okay, so let's go to the next thing that every beginner pianist needs to know, and that is playing by ear. So a lot of teachers and some beginners actually believe this, that you know what, from the very beginning I have to learn how to read music. I have a different theory on that, because I believe that learning music is like learning language, and when it comes to speaking, it's always a better idea to learn how to speak by listening to people that speak that language and by imitating rather than reading words from a book and trying to make sense of it. So I take the same approach with music and encourage people to listen, find things by ear, and then introduce reading once you've gained a bit of musicianship. So for training your ear, I would suggest picking out certain melodies by ear, especially things that are quite familiar. Maybe one example that could be good is Happy Birthday. So if I say to you, play Happy Birthday starting on the note G. Da, 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 da. You should be able, first of all, to sing or to hum that melody. You don't even need to have a good voice for this. Da, da, da. Even if you sound like that's alright. So as long as you're singing it in tune or humming it in tune or whistling in tune, okay, whatever you decide. So da, da. Already I can hear it's the same note. Da, da, na, na, na. My ears, even my voice, can tell that the next note is higher. Da, da, da. So I'm going to go to the higher note on the piano. And wow, that's actually correct. So da 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 da, I come back. So you know, I could have done that starting on any note. I could have started on F sharp, and the formula is the same. I'm repeating a note, going up and coming down. I could have started on A. I could have started on C. Okay, so already I'm training my ear, and I'm noticing that, wow, there's all these connections between how high the notes go and what direction they go on the piano. So high is going to the right and low is going to the left. Okay, so let's continue the happy birthday. Starting on G, right? La is the next note. Oh, that's high. Da, 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 da. I'm going to look for that note because I've got no idea where it is. So da, 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 da. I just know it's high. Da. No, it's not that. Da. I'm trying the next note. It's still not that. Let's go. Let's try this. There we go. That's the one. Okay, so now we know that the next note there is C. Okay, so da 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 da. I can hear I'm going down. Let's try and go down to the next note. There it is. So okay, so here's a challenge for you. See if you can figure out the rest of the melody for Happy Birthday. Your first note was G. And if you happen to find the whole song, challenge yourself and try and find that melody, but starting on a different note. Maybe say A. Oh, you might realize, well, that's not working, so maybe I'm going to try black key. And there we go. Okay. So this way your ears get better, and you also become familiar with playing in different keys. I actually did a whole video which is right here on how to play piano by ear. So I highly recommend that you check it out. Basically, there are 3 steps that I follow. So I like to find the key of the song, then I like to find the bass notes of the song, and then once I've done that, I like to find the chords of the song, and then with those 3 things, I'm free to play the song in any way that I want. So now the next thing that I believe every beginner pianist needs to know is they need to learn how to read and understand basic music notation. So for that, there's several, in fact there are so many books that are out there. Maybe the ones that I'm recommending now are very outdated, so feel free to suggest in the comments if you know some really useful, modern, hip books that our beginners can use. Okay, so one of the ones that I like is this one right here called The Music Tree. I'll probably do some reviews on these books at a later stage, but this is quite nice because it teaches the students, I like it because it teaches them to read by direction and by interval, which I found useful, especially considering that I really struggled with reading in the beginning. So this for me sort of did the magic for me. And then another one that I like as well is, by the way, so this is only the first book in the Music Tree series. So once you finish this book, then you go to the next and to the next. And a lot of these beginner tutor books are the same. So it's a series of books, and you go to the next, and your reading gets better, and you come across more challenging things, and so forth. By the way, I've also got a video which I recommend you check out on just basic music theory, because that music theory is going to help you understand reading as well. So please do check that out. So that was The Music Tree. And another one that I think is cool, and maybe one of the most used in the world, is Piano Adventures. In fact, both my children, when I taught them to read, this is what we did, and it worked really well for them. They found it fun, they loved the pictures in there, they loved the songs, they loved the duets with the teacher. So this, really cool. If your child is very young, you can use a younger version of that same book. So this is also Piano Adventures, but I think this is probably for 4, 5, maybe 6-year-olds as well. Okay, so maybe from the ages of 4. upwards. I've even used this with 3-year-olds. Okay, and absolutely beautiful. It even has backing tracks and things like that. So really cool. And then this is the one that I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think when I started learning, I learned from book 1 of John Thompson. This is possibly one of the oldest piano methods or piano tutor books, which I still find very useful. Okay, and many great pianists mentioned this one as the one that they studied with. But please do feel free to share other books that you know of, because we're a community, and the more of us that share, the more of us learn, and so forth. So that's fantastic. So I believe every beginner pianist needs to know their music theory and also just learn the basics of reading. The only thing I would say about reading is I strongly recommend that they play by ear first and then read, and that reading will be so much faster. What I've also noticed as a trend in general is the students, especially my students, in fact people that I know, when they start with reading, usually they get to a point where they're like, okay, it's getting boring now. I mean, for how long am I supposed to play that same middle C, you know? But if they start with playing by ear, maybe even improvising and playing some things that they know, then when you introduce reading, the flow in the music's already there, and they know exactly what they're doing. So it's a much more fulfilling process. So those students, I found, they enjoy playing longer, you know. And for some reason, the people that just start with reading, from my experience, they get bored very quickly, and especially if they're young, they're like, I actually don't want to do this anymore. Okay, so reading, very important skill for beginner pianists to learn. Now, the final thing that I think is really important for every beginner pianist to learn is to play in time. So there's several ways you can do this. What I used to do a lot was play along to recordings, and that seemed to sort my timing. Okay, so when you play along with recordings, you can't stop because you've made a mistake. The recording forces you to keep going. Okay, and you start hearing the other instruments. So not only are you playing solo piano, but you're playing with a drummer, you're playing with a bass player, maybe you're playing with guitar players, and subconsciously you develop a sense of where the piano fits into an ensemble, and when to play and when not to play, how much to play, and so forth. So playing along with recordings, very important for your timing, and obviously all the other bonuses that I've mentioned. Another useful tool, maybe even better than playing with recordings, is actually playing with other musicians. So if there are any other musicians that you can play with, that would be great, especially for a beginner. So if you can play duets with other beginners, or if you can play with your teacher, that's really going to improve your timing and the flow of your music. Because normally beginners are concerned about playing the right notes. So if they make a mistake, they'll stop and want to fix it. But if you're playing with someone else, or if you're playing with a recording, you have to keep going. Okay. The other thing is either playing with a backing track. So if you've got a backing track, that really helps you to stay in time. I know a lot of books come with backing tracks, and I also noticed a lot of exams. For instance, music exams like from Rock School London, a lot of their pieces come with backing tracks, and those really help the students to play in time. And obviously the other thing that you could use is the oldest method is just use a metronome or a click. So whenever you play, whether you're playing a scale or whatever, you could always play that with a click. Let's summarize all the things that I believe every beginner pianist needs to know. They need to have good technique, good posture, good hand position. They also need to have finger independence and finger strength. They need to be able to play hands together. Every beginner pianist needs to know chords, and they need to know chord progressions. They also need to know their scales, especially the major scales. They also need to be able to play by ear, to figure out melodies, figure out bass notes, figure out the keys to songs, and figure out the chord progressions to songs. They also need to know how to read music. And finally, they need to know how to play in time and to make the music flow. So now that you know what every beginner piano player needs to learn, the next thing that you need is a system that teaches you these things step by step so that you get to where you want to get to as quickly as possible. So this is where my Play Piano Like a Pro program really helps. So I take you from an absolute beginner to you sounding really confident playing all your favorite songs in just a period of 90 days. So please check out the link that I've put in the description if you're interested in this. I would like to get to know as much about you as possible and what your goals are and what you struggle with so that I can really help you in those 90 days. Please check it out. It will be 90 days of enlightenment and fun and just constant growth. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. If you like it, please give me a thumbs up, and I will see you in our next video.